to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by White House reporter Katherine Doyle. Katherine, we're entering the anniversary of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. You've written a story, it's part of our Afghanistan Remembering Project, about how that was sort of a turning point for President Biden politically.
Yeah, it was this time last year, shortly after the fall of Kabul, that we started to see Biden's poll numbers, disapproval numbers in particular, really begin to climb. Mm-hmm. They never really recovered. I mean, over the course of the year, they continued to get worse. And until recently, he's had very few political wins, and the compounding effect of other foreign policy issues after Afghanistan, I think, really cemented questions about his competency and ability to lead the country in a coherent and strong way after the really chaotic downfall of the withdrawal.
I mean, because obviously I think to the Biden administration it would have been seen as the fulfillment of a popular campaign promise, the idea of getting out of Afghanistan, ending that 20-year war, polled well at the time, but then once they did it, there was a backlash because the images were just so disturbing.
I think they would still view it as a successful policy that they went through with, despite the chaos and the difficulty. I mean, some people would question whether the polling that is reflected in the weeks after and the year after is tied exclusively to Afghanistan, or whether it's the result of compounding factors. But there was a significant shift over those weeks that really affected him.
You know, since then, obviously, we've had inflation, hard time passing some of the legislative agenda, some political setbacks, obviously some other instability in the world. So it probably isn't just Afghanistan, but Afghanistan, it was around the time of Afghanistan at least. The drop in his numbers did sort of coincide with that.
And they promised an orderly exit that didn't happen. You know, 13 service members were killed in a suicide bombing, and the evacuation was chaotic, even if it was historic in the number of people that they were able to get out of the country.
Right, although there were controversies about whether, even with that big number, there were too many people left behind, particularly allies of the West from Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. So, on a happier note for the White House, they believe they may be starting to turn some of this around. And a big part of this, the sort of capstone of some of the recent legislative successes, is President Biden finally got to sign a reconciliation bill into law. They're calling it the Inflation Reduction Act. And it's going to be a big part of the Democrats' midterm messaging. Yeah,
they're really leaning on this going into the fall. You know, it was a big priority. It contains a number of Democratic priorities on climate and on healthcare and on taxes that they're really hoping to message forcefully going into the fall. They've been conducting polling on this, and in a memo put out by some of Biden's advisors this week, they explained how they were going to take this around the country using surrogates and other Biden officials to really hammer home the message that Democrats are working for voters, and that they've done things while holding both chambers of Congress and also the White House.
And so, in addition to all of these surrogates who are going to go around the country, Biden, once he gets back from vacation, to be clear, is going to hit the road himself and do a little bit of barnstorming, presumably to help down-ballot Democrats in the midterms, but also to tout some of these accomplishments and some of the things, local projects and things that are going to come about as a result of some of the laws that he signed. Is there a risk that some of the more vulnerable Democrats aren't going to want to be seen with him?
That's a possibility. At the moment, he's enjoying a little bit of a bounce from the result from this string of recent legislative victories, and so Democrats have been rallying around him, and he'll be in Pennsylvania, I believe, next week. And but it's possible that there are Democrats who are in districts that are narrow, have a narrow range of victory, where they'll be avoiding where they'll prefer that he won't be visiting with them.
Sure, and I mean, even Pennsylvania, you know, maybe could be a case in point. Certainly, Scranton boy made good. Pennsylvania features very prominently in the Biden, biography. John Fetterman, the Democratic candidate for Senate, already has a healthy lead. Does he necessarily want to be seen with Biden?
It might not matter so much for Fetterman. given that he has a lead and given that his competition is really struggling in the race, and given the upsides of some of the aspects of the bill that the administration is touting, he might not be as worried about it.
The infrastructure bill didn't build any of the Republican candidates' 10 homes.
Well, we don't know, actually. We'll have to wait for an investigation from Fetterman's team to find out, I'm sure.
Thank you, Katherine. You can read Katherine and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.